A month-long police investigation results in an arrest. A North Truro woman was arrested after police say she tried to steal an ambulance. The town's water system gets a $4 million upgrade, and a longtime town employee looks back on his career. Details on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, July 23rd. I'm Sarah Mannell. Barnstable police arrested a Dorchester man Friday for allegedly selling crack cocaine. Police Chief Paul McDonald says the arrest followed a months-long investigation.
Lots of stuff going on. I want to talk first about a significant arrest that was made. Tell me a little bit about what's going on.
It has been a busy week for the Barnstable Police Department, but last Friday afternoon we arrested an individual, Marcel Young. Mr. Young has a long history with this police department and other departments throughout the Cape. He is a significant drug distributor, trafficker within the Cape. He was just recently indicted for a case that we had that occurred last March. He was on $10,000 cash bail on that incident, and then Friday we picked him up again, and he had 63 grams of cocaine on him. It was a month-long investigation involving the narcotics unit and the street crime unit. They watched a hand-to-hand transaction go down in a convenience store in West Yarmouth. They then arrested him. He had a quantity of drugs on him. Then they executed a search warrant on his room. He was staying at a local motel, and then they were able to locate the rest of the drugs. So now he's being held. He was arraigned yesterday, and he's being held without bail.
Now, are there any additional charges or any additional punishment that come along with breaking the law when you're out on bail?
No. What happens is that usually because...
A North Truro woman was arrested Monday night after police say she attempted to steal an ambulance from Cape Cod Hospital.
A vehicle theft attempt.
It is, and we don't really know what happened. Whitney Hammonds, she gives an address of North Truro. She was arrested last night about 5:30. She was at the hospital. She was admitted into the hospital about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon for unknown medical reasons. In the ambulance dugout where all the ambulances respond, it's a pretty busy area. She was able to gain access to that. The Hyannis FD Rescue had just arrived. She was able to exit the entrance into the rescue squad, and one of the firefighters came out to get the stretcher out of the back of it, noticed that the rear backup lights were activated. He became suspicious, went around to the cab and saw the individual in the ambulance and was trying to actually drive away. And the only reason it wasn't gear, it was running, it wasn't gear, and the only reason she was not able to move it is because the brake was, and she had no idea how to release the brake of the vehicle.
Indeed, a very unusual. And so, did anyone find out why she was trying to take the ambulance?
I have the report in front of me. There was nothing said. There was no statement. She did not give a statement.
And the busy week continued for Barnstable Police with an early morning fire in West Barnstable. McDonald says the fire started at 187 Kettle Hoe Road.
Just after midnight, the police department and the West Barnstable Fire Department responded to 187 Kettle Hole Road, where the fire alarm were activated. There was one occupant in the house with a dog. She was awakened by the fire alarm. She went downstairs. She saw smoke and fire in the basement. They were able to get out of the home. Once the neighbors called the police department, called 911, the fire department, the police responded. They called in a second alarm, and numerous other fire departments also responded. And there is significant damage to the house. Unfortunately, nobody was hurt.
Excellent. Well, Chief, I thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure to talk with you. Nice to talk with you again, and we'll talk with you next week. Have a great day.
It's always a pleasure, and glad you're back.
Thanks, Chief.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Officials estimate the fire caused about $75,000 worth of damage. The town of Barnstable is upgrading its 100-year-old water system. DPW Director Dan Santos says the project took 2 years to complete.
We've constructed storage tanks and pumping stations at both the straightway wellhead on Straightway Road between Route 28 and Creville Beach Road, and also the Mar well field, which is over behind our water division offices on Yarmouth Road, over near the KAM appliance place there at the intersection at 28. That's where our main office is. And so there was these are ground level storage tanks. Sometimes you see when you're driving around the large red and white checkerboard storage tanks that are you typically know as water tanks, and sometimes we construct those, and other times we construct lower versions that aren't elevated. the reason for the elevated tanks is to add pressure to the system, and so in this case that wasn't really a requirement. We were mostly looking at providing water storage to even out pressure within our water system in the Hyannis and West Hyannisport area, as well as providing additional water in the system to cover peak flows. And a lot of what we do in the water business is driven by fire protection or what we call fire flows. So if there was a devastating fire and they were drawing down water to fight that fire, we want to have enough pressure and water in the system to handle that. So a lot of our designs are based on that. So what we've done is really improved our capacity in the system with these two storage tanks. The one over at the Mar treatment plant has a capacity of 800,000 gallons, while the one on Straightway is 400,000 gallons.
Santos says officials selected a ground-level tank design for the project to keep costs down.
The way water works is the higher you put that water, the more pressure is in the system. So all that water, if it's a 500,000 gallon storage tank, 100 feet up in the air, all that weight of that water is pressuring on the water in the pipe. So it puts pressure in our system. Well, we don't have an issue with pressure in the system. We're just looking for storage capacity, just having volume of water on hand. And so if you can save money by creating a ground-level storage tank, that's really the way to go, because the elevated tanks are much more expensive and complicated in their construction. So in this case, it was more of a storage capacity rather than a pressure issue.
While the project cost a total of $4 million, Santos says much of the project was paid for with grants and low-interest loans.
We've been looking at doing these for probably the last 6 or 7 years. As you may recall, the town purchased the Hyannis Water Department, the Hyannis Water System, in 2005, and at that point embarked on an aggressive capital improvement program, which we're in the middle of, and this was a major part of that. And we were able to secure with former, now deceased town attorney Bob Smith, almost $3 million in settlement funding from a program that had to do with gas stations and MTBE and water. And the total project cost for this was a little over $4 million. So 3/4 of that was basically a settlement funding grant, and we were able to get, thankfully, $500,000 from the Lyndon LaRusso Foundation as a grant for this project. And so the remainder, which was about $600,000, which is a small loan that we typically do through the state revolving fund program, which is low-interest loans to communities for water and wastewater type projects.
This Thursday, July 25th, the public is invited to the grand opening ceremony. It begins at 2 p.m. at the Straightway Water Treatment Plant at 228 Straightway in Hyannis. Call 508-778-9617 for details and to RSVP. Regulatory Services Director Tom Geiler is preparing for retirement. Geiler has worked for the town of Barnstable just under 39 years. He reflected on changes within town government during his career.
First 20 years were selectman form of government. Second 20 years were council form. Significant change between the selectman form and the council form. I think the community had grown up considerably and was ready for the city form of government, the council form. And certainly looking back the last 20 years, our bond rating, our infrastructure, we've made tremendous strides in improving the community and trying to keep our head get up above water, while communities all around the country are sliding underwater. So I think Barnstable has done a pretty good job at trying to move the communities forward slowly, cautiously, with the best interest of the community at the forefront. So that's been a big part of this. It was interesting to go through that because there was a significant change.
For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.